Call the Crystal City Council meeting to order. Let's start with roll call, please.
Councilmember Eidbo.
Here.
Councilmember Kamich. Here. Councilmember Kaiser.
Here.
Councilmember Onessa Rosen.
Here.
Mayor Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Budaszewski.
Here.
Councilmember Cummings.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Council, we have an agenda before us, looking for a motion on this agenda. Go ahead, Therese.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Looking for a second. Tracy?
I will second that.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next, we have a consent agenda. I'll read that into the record at this time. Approval of the minutes for the following meetings. The council meeting for May 7th, 2024, work session from that same date, and a work session from May 9th, 2024. Also, a list of license applications submitted by the city clerk to the city council. That is on file in the city clerk's office. Adoption of a resolution rescinding civil penalties for violations of liquor license regulations by Family Cafe Diner. That's the LLC as Family Cafe and Diner located at 6235 56th Avenue North. Then authorization to participate in a cooperative purchase connection service cooperative and adoption of a resolution recognizing June as Pride Month. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Wait, need a motion. Need a motion. Trace?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Forrest?
Second.
All right. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Next is open forum. Open forum is a time where we appreciate hearing from citizens about concerns and desires. We set aside a little bit of time for this open forum. We provide ample time for all speakers. If speaking time is limited to 3 minutes per person, 10 minutes per topic, the mayor, as presiding officer, may extend that total time allowed per topic by rule. No action may be taken or any action brought before the council during open forum. The council may place items of discussions from open forum onto future subsequent council meetings. It looks like we have some people here wishing to say something. All right. All right. It looks like we start with, there's a number on BRT, light rail. We'll put those together. And then Becker Park. All right, first person up is Crystal Potter. If you could please step forward, make sure the microphone is adjusted so that people at home can hear you, and then please state your address and go ahead.
All right. My name is Christelle Porter, and I live at 2520 23rd Avenue North, Minneapolis, Minnesota, about 2 blocks off of West Broadway Avenue. I represent West Broadway Business and Area Coalition. What I wanted to bring attention to is a very interesting piece of the light rail plan. If you look at this place right here, this is the Youth YMCA. Okay, so here's Broadway. This is the Youth YMCA. Right across the street from there is the North Commons Park, where a lot of children are playing. And then if you look right across the street from here, all of this housing is low-income housing, along with this, filled with children. On any given day where school is not in, you could see about 8 to 10 children playing right up to the street. There's no way to cross. And we're looking at 1 lane going east and 1 lane going west. No way to pull over if an emergency vehicle is coming. If a train is coming at the same time, where is a car going to pull over? This is very dangerous for children. And I want to make sure that you guys are aware of this, because this is very serious. And if something bad happens to our kids, it's not going to be good. That's one thing I want to bring up. The other thing I want to bring up is the fact that the light rail is planning on, the proposed plan is to go through the parking lot of the Minneapolis Public School headquarters and bypass it completely and go 2 blocks west of there for a stop. The entire city of Minneapolis needs to register their children at the headquarters of Minneapolis Public Schools. So families that are needing to use this public transportation, if they're planning on putting it here, why would they not put a stop where the whole city is needing to use this? There's a lot of issues with this plan that we are not happy about. Me and my staff, we went to about 250 doors today, and not one person said that they support this. They do not want it. They're very concerned, especially the parents that are living in these buildings. So I hope that you take this seriously and really consider it before even voting on something like this. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christel. Next is Tom Schlepsky.
Good evening, Mayor Adams, Crystal City Council. My name is Tom Schlepsky. Many of you know me. I've lived in Crystal for 20-some years. Sadly, I just moved to another. As a realtor, I've attended multiple of these Blue Lines presentations. During the Robbinsdale City Council meeting last fall, the proposed Blue Line was the main topic on the agenda. More than 100 people were there, all opponents of the light rail. There was not one person there that supported the light rail. Tonight, others may talk about the rapid bus transit system. It's much more efficient and substantially less alternative. They may talk about Highway 81 just being recently rebuilt. So I won't dwell on those topics. Tonight, I just want to talk about 5 items. First, the cost. You've heard it before. $3 billion for the Blue Line. $3 billion. The Southwest Light Rail is $3 billion also. They're still going through lawsuits. Is that what's going to happen up here? Unnecessary. Costs are up, needs are down. Other cities have light rail, but those cities are substantially more bigger demographics than we do. Cushman and Wakefield, it's a commercial real estate company that reports that for the first quarter of 2024, the Minneapolis vacancy rate was increased by 27.1%. Axios reports that the office vacancy in the Twin Cities are among the highest in the United States. Crime. Last October, I attended the Tri-City Police Forum. Police Chief Revering was there. I asked, what does they see as the next crime wave for this area? Without hesitation, every one of them said it's going to be, once the light rail comes through, it's going to be skyrocketing crime wave. Crime between 2023 increased to 7,886 crimes. Just last Friday, there was a fatal shooting at one of the Green Line stations. Safety concerns. Almost weekly, you hear about somebody getting hit, cars, pedestrians, on one of the light rails. Taxes, they will go up. We're talking more taxes than just the supporting the Blue Line. We're talking about specialized training for the police officers, for first responders. We're talking about specialized equipment to extricate people from the light rail accidents. I talk to a lot of homeowners because of being a real estate agent. And there's a lot of people that can no longer afford government access. So what can you do to help us out? Vote no for the municipal consent. And support the light rail alternatives, which is rapid bus transit. Thank you.
All right. Tim Paulson.
Good evening. Tim Polson, Ward 1, Precinct 1. Hi, Teresa. So Sorry, I was really busy today, so I couldn't dress up and put my suit and tie on and look as good as Mayor Jim does, but that's just the way it is for tonight. But, there's a whole bullet list of things I could say that are negative on this whole light rail thing, but I'll just speak to one. The last 5 years, before I retired, I was a Metro Mobility bus driver. And I used to have to drive, unfortunately, a whole lot on Hiawatha Avenue, which, of course, the light rail runs right along there. And the traffic on that road, because of light rail, is absolutely horrendous. During rush hour, the traffic backs up from one light to the other. Some of those lights are half a mile to a mile apart. And while you're sitting there waiting in this big, long line for a couple, 3 minutes for the light to turn, it turns, 5, 6 cars get through, and you've got a half a mile to a mile's worth of cars waiting to go through. And County Road 81 is very similar to Hiawatha Avenue. From what I understand, they're talking about eliminating a lane even to make it all fit in. So I anticipate the same kind of issues on County Road 81 as we now experience on Hiawatha Avenue. There was one time, there's a group home right on 32nd and Hiawatha, just off of there. And you could sit there with a light to make a left-hand turn off of 32nd to get back onto Hiawatha and wait for minutes. There was one morning I picked up a passenger at the group home there. I waited 12 minutes for the light to turn green so that I can make a left-hand turn onto Hiawatha Avenue. I addressed the issue, maybe a year or so ago with Senator Rest at one of her town hall meetings, and she says, that can't be, it's all regulated by computer. Well, you may have a computer system regulating it, but it's very poorly programmed because it doesn't work. Like I say, the traffic on Hiawatha is terrible. I anticipate that same issue being on 81. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of accidents because of that. There's definitely going to be a lot of delays. It's not going to be a good situation for our police force as far as traffic goes. So that's the one thing I'll speak to tonight. And there's many more I could.
All right. Thanks, Tim. I experienced that same time in that same intersection about a year and a half ago. Just commentating. Karen, is it Sather?
Yes. I'm Karen Sather. I live on Bernard Avenue in Crystal, and I'm a current homeowner. And considering a big project like this, you want to consider the cost, not financially, but all the other implications that will be involved and who it will affect. So in consideration, I'm just curious how the value of our home ownership of everybody down Broadway and close by, if their home value will go down or stay the same or increase, and if there's been any assessment and evaluations of that in the areas where there is the transit. Another concern I have is the length of the project from beginning to completion. Is it going to be years as the Green Line? Are we monitoring that? And has there been any tracking or evaluations of how the major construction will affect the foundations and surrounding homeowners, businesses, and apartments along a given route? Because the Green Line, there's been condos, the devastation of cracking of their walls and the foundation. So there's apartments down on Broadway and homeowners that are close by. So that's a concern I have. And then also on Broadway, there's thriving business owners along the route, and having their businesses keep opening during construction, it could be devastating for them, and it could leave them in financial distress for themselves and their family because they might have to close and then they have nothing. And so that would be effective there. And I'm not sure if automobile traffic will be open on Broadway during construction time either, if there's just going to be little lanes or what. And my consideration is the North Star that's in place right now. I don't know how much that's functioning, but it's just a drive over the river to Fridley, or it starts up in Big Lake, St. Cloud, I don't know, to downtown, and then people can transfer. That's already in place, and it would be more cost-effective to use the North Star Transit. And I'm curious if there's been any surveys or evaluation of current commuters that take the 81 to Broadway, if they would that affect their commute, if they would use this transit, the Blue Line transit, or if that would affect their change in route because of the construction and take them longer to get to work. And another option is that the e-bikes are on the rise. And I would like to ride a bike, but there are no safe bike pathways or pedestrian pathways to get from point A to B. Like if I go to Crystal or New Hope, Robbinsdale, Golden Valley, North Minneapolis, or Plymouth, there's really no safe biking that you can go purposely to a business or a church or wherever anybody wants to go to. And I'm thinking if I went from Crystal to Robbinsdale on a bicycle, I don't know the safest route because there is no path, and I'm not comfortable riding on a sidewalk where pedestrians go. And in conclusion, our current society is automobile-oriented in our transit system, and I'm thinking, yes, a Blue Line extension would be beneficial for those that are 30 years younger in the future, but not immediate. It's going to be reconstructing 81, which it took 30 years to complete what it is now. And I guess that's all I have.
Thank you. All right, that's all I have for Blue Line. Is there anyone else wishing to speak about light rail or Blue Line? I'll have you fill one of these out after you, okay, if you could hand that to Chrissy, our city clerk. Just a note, we went past 10 minutes, but we're extending time a little bit.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead, Eric Hillman.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for letting me speak today. My name is Eric Hillman. I'm a 22-year resident of Robbinsdale, and there are some. We did some surveys on this light rail design for the city, and we got some interesting results back. And the biggest concern is crime, and the effects that the crime could have on these cities that it runs through. So, through it really drives me crazy when I see these Met Council orchestrated PR reports saying crime is down and what have you. Well, crime is not down. Crime is up, and we know it's up because we talk to our friends. We see it on the news. We see videos on social media. We see all these things. In one WCCO report, they rode the train for just 3 hours and they saw 10 incidents of people smoking crack cocaine. And on both the Green and Blue Line, they said number of crimes went up 50% last year. One person interviewed said the rides are not getting better. Another person mentioned that this is no place for families with children. So that's very sad. In a Care 11 report, there's a lady, Molly Jasmussen, who works at Goodwill in St. Paul. She lives in St. Paul. She's extremely concerned about the light rail. She's seen everything from drug abuse to stabbings to assaults, homicides. Due to her safety concerns, she has to wear a knife with her every day as she's taking the light rail to work. So if that doesn't disturb you, I don't know what will. And this is what it's come to. And I was just curious. I went on TripAdvisor and just looked at TripAdvisor. I was just curious, like, what are people out of state saying about our transit system here in Minneapolis? And 275 reviews, 95% of them were just really bad. And so I found that to be pretty embarrassing. They were mentioning crime and drugs on the train. And social media, we see it on social media. We see acts of crime all the time that are not being reported. A friend of mine he is our financial advisor, his wife had a delay between flights. She's a flight attendant. She witnessed a stabbing as she went to the Mall of America from MSP. So, and I know the transit system has its own police, and I've been very curious about this. The Metro Transit System, they say they have their own police. I've never seen them on the trains. I mean, and I've talked to a retired officer of Minneapolis. His name is Matt Vanna. He said he had a lot of problems with the train system because the Metro Transit officers are not riding the trains. So this is a concern for all the cities involved because once they get off the train, once they're off the platform, it is then your jurisdiction's problem. So in Robbinsdale, at any given night, we only have 2 to 3 officers at night patrolling the streets. So who's going to take care of this? And so we're taking some big risks here. I talked to Captain John Elder of Robbinsdale. He said it's going to be a problem with the 81 is going to block traffic somewhat for current traffic. We have North Memorial is a level 1 trauma center. Only 4 of those in the state of Minnesota, and that's it's a huge concern for people in Robbinsdale. Not to mention people who are at the hospital. And I talked to Met Council about why not turnstiles. Turnstiles are. I think they would mitigate crime. I don't think they would take away crime completely, but I think they would mitigate it. And so he says, well, they're going to just jump the turnstiles. People are going to jump the turnstiles. I don't think they're going to jump the turnstiles. I've ridden in Chicago, and we've been to Chicago a few times, the wife and I. And this is a picture that I got off of Google Maps. This is the Chicago at Cermak in Chinatown, where we got on the train every day. And it's wall to wall, ceiling to floor, steel wall, turnstile in the center. Nobody's jumping that turnstile. So I'm not convinced. I don't believe anything that council tells me, to be honest. And in summary, I'll just wrap it up. In summary, if you can't provide a light rail system, or any transit system for that matter, that is safe for middle income and low income families, then what are you doing? It defeats the purpose of everything they're doing. So I ask you to vote no on this, and I don't approve. I don't see any logic in it whatsoever. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Eric. All right, last chance for light rail. Okay, did you fill one of these out?
I did not.
Please do so afterwards. Go ahead.
So my name is Greg Sowers, resident of Robbinsdale. I just have 12 businesses of Robbinsdale that allow me to put up our sign. If I can pass that, give that to you, Mayor, and you can pass that on to your council, and then basically we'll show that small businesses of Robbinsdale do not want this light rail, not at all. And our mayor's not listening to our people and our small businesses. The small businesses do not want this. So if you can look at that, and please vote no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Oops, this is not his. If you could give that yellow sheet to Chrissy when you're done. All right. Can you give this to Jim later? Last call for light rail. Seeing none, we're going to move on to Bert Ord.
Calling Bert.
Mayor, Council, Bert Ord, 6700 60th Avenue North. I just want you to keep Becker on the top of your minds. And I would encourage any of this council to show up on Saturday or Sunday morning. I usually begin my work around 6 to 6:30. And you can see for yourselves what I'm faced with. I now take pictures. Thank you.
I never get up at 6 o'clock willingly. All right. Any other last call for open forum? Anybody wishing to speak? Once, twice, 3 times? All right. I will close open forum. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate your time that you take out to talk with us.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, next we'll go to the regular agenda. And first item on the regular agenda is disbursements of $25,000 or greater. I'll read those into the record. At this time, Nitti Sanitation, Inc. for Crystal New Hope curbside cleanup for $788,727. West Metro Fire Rescue District for May contributions to the West Metro Fire, $136,218. McQueen Equipment for sidewalk machine is $212,337. Min Para for the employee city required contributions from pay date 4/26/24 is $72,103. Health Partners, Inc. for May health insurance premiums, $140,432. IRS electronic payments for federal and FICA withholding taxes for the same pay date, 4/26, is $77,091. Min Para for the employee and city required contributions for pay date 5/10/24, $74,563. Total disbursements of $25,000 or greater is $1,501,473.37. Are there any questions from the council? Forrest?
On the sidewalk machine, was that one that, when did we get delivery on that? Is that, because I thought we just got a new one.
Well, that was the one that the council approved.
Okay,
That was
it's
the
just,
previous
okay,
one.
that's what
We
all right.
just.
Got billed, all right.
Got billed and invoiced.
Sounds good.
So, yeah,
That was just what I was checking.
it's
Okay.
not a different one. It's the same one.
All right.
Go ahead, Taji.
I've asked about this before, but this curbside cleanup, can you just help me understand what that $800,000 entails?
So that is the total amount that through the HRG, that for the cleanup, because of the three cities, it's split. New Hope and Crystal are on 1 year, and Brooklyn Center is on the other year. And so this is the portion for the Crystal and New Hope event, the cleanup event, the bulk cleanup.
So Crystal and New Hope?
Correct.
But we pay $788,000.
Yeah, you didn't know we merged?
Does New Hope also pay that amount?
No, it's approximately about half, around the 50%.
So do they reimburse us or something?
Yes,
or-
so we bill
Okay.
then both the other
So it's
cities.
actually about half of that amount that we actually pay.
Correct, yeah.
At the end of the day, right?
Yes.
And the curbside cleanup, this happens every other year.
That's correct.
That's the current schedule, yes, that's what.
So we pay about $400,000 for that service every other year. Great, thank you.
All right. Other questions? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Tracy?
I will make a motion to approve the list of disbursements of more than 25,000.
Looking for a second. David?
I will second that.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. All right, our Recreation Director, John Elholm, is patiently waiting for us, ready to go. He's going to talk to us a little bit about grants. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. We are here today to, we've talked a lot about a legislative appropriation from the state, and this is the paperwork that allows us to get that reimbursement. This is the same slide I showed last time we were here talking about the pool. The pool budget, the agreement tonight is for that legislative appropriation of $2.35 million. So what that is the legislature appropriates the money. The Minnesota Department of Employee and Economic Development is charged with putting grant documents together, and then they send those to us. And just a few things in that are all of our grants. They're reimbursement grants. So we pay the money on the front end and then submit for reimbursement. The grant agreement requires we pay prevailing wage rates to contractors. And the grant agreement requires we record a restrictive covenant on the improvement. And that's a fairly common thing as well. We did that at Becker Park when we did some improvements there. The picture at the bottom is just a snip from the legislative appropriation language. So tonight we're just, recommendation is to approve a resolution approving the grant agreement with the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development for the Crystal Cove Aquatic Center Authorizing and directing the mayor and city manager to execute the grant agreement on behalf of the city of Crystal, and authorizing and directing staff and consultants to take steps necessary and convenient to proceed under the terms of the grant agreement.
All right. Thank you, John. Quick question, can you talk a little bit more about what the covenant looks like? Yeah, I guess I'm curious in duration and scope.
Yeah, the duration, I believe it is for 125% of the useful life, which in the grant agreement is 30 years. So that would, I think it's about like 37 or 38 years.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for John on this item? Yeah, go ahead, Todd.
And just, what does that mean? 38 years of what?
We basically can't dispose of the property since we're putting $2.35 million of state money into it.
Got it.
Anything else? All right. Looking for a motion on this one. John?
Make a motion approving the resolution, a grant agreement with the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development and authorizing execution.
All right, looking for a second. Tracy?
I'll second that.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
John, when does the project start? I mean, when do they start digging up the old pool?
I have a pre-construction meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
Where we'll get that schedule dialed in a little bit. Initially, it was supposedly going to be early June.
Early June.
First or second week of June.
Okay,
I'll know more in a couple of days.
awesome, thank you.
Yeah, very good. All right, next, the council will consider a resolution approving the purchase of an easement machine. We have our Public Works Director, Jesse, to address the council and tell us what that machine might be.
Thank you, Mayor Adams, council members. Jesse Struve, Public Works Director. The machine in question is an easement machine that our staff uses that to access kind of in between houses, rear yards, along the creek to help us clean out the sanitary sewer that runs through that area, sometimes with storm sewer as well. The existing piece of equipment is from 1993. It's a self-propelled unit. We got quotes to replace it with another self-propelled unit. That quote came in over $100,000. We reevaluated, got another quote for a different piece of machine that we can attach to existing equipment that we have to get in those rear yards. And that came in at just over $31,000. So that's represents about $13,000 under budget from what was included in the long-term plan and in the CIP. With that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions on this item?
I have a question.
Oh,
So this is like a giant snake that you're running, correct?
It's a machine that runs a giant snake.
It's a
That yes, it's actual self-propelled that forces water back in to the lines to jet and clean out the lines.
So you're jetting out the lines, you're not really running let's say like a steel snake down there, correct?
It's a hose
Yep.
with a spray nozzle attachment, and we have to haul this machine back towards where all the manholes are in rear yards
Okay.
along the creek. So
So you're using water pressure to basically clear all these
Yep.
clogs, great.
Correct.
Awesome, thank you.
You got it? Okay. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, looking for a motion on this item. John?
I suppose since I asked the question, I make the motion, right? Is that how it works around here, right? I make a motion approving the purchase of an easement machine.
Second, anyone? Tracy, Treese?
I will second that.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. So we got Jesse for a couple items here. Next one will be talking about the mill and overlay. So go ahead.
next one's a truck, actually.
Truck, did I? Yep,
And then the mill and overlay.
I did two in a row, didn't I?
Mayor Adams, council member again, Jesse Struve, Public Works Director. Before you is a consideration of replacement of a pickup truck, a 1-ton pickup truck that we use year-round for snow operations for summertime operations as well. This machine has been in the long-term plan for multiple years. Last year with supply issues, we could not get this truck. It recently became available kind of last minute for us. So we're proposing to move forward with the replacement. It is included in the 2024 long-term plan. One item to note is the quotes for $45,000 for the truck, and then an additional $22,000-ish for the equipment setup. I have in here represents a $28,000 under budget. It's actually 18. I had a little typo in there when I did that. So either way, we're still under budget, just not quite as much as what the memo shows. With that, I could answer any questions.
Yeah, Forrest.
Could you tell me why we're getting the trim upgrade? Not just the base?
I believe that's just the model that is available right now. They have one coming in, so we don't have much of a selection on that.
Awesome, thank you.
John?
So last year when we talked about trucks, we talked about buying them through the state contract, and there weren't any available. And that we were probably, if we wanted a truck, we were gonna have to probably pay a premium for those vehicles. So now is that, we starting to see the, these trucks are available and we're starting to get them at the state contract rate, or are we still having to pay a premium for them?
In this case, sorry, Mayor Adams, Councilmember Budashevsky. In this case, it is under the state contract.
Okay.
That is not always the case. It kind of depends. We have seen the supply chain improve, especially with some of the pickup trucks, the gasoline-powered pickup trucks, to where we can get those a little more readily. I know last year they did go to other dealers and got quotes, and while it was higher, it wasn't significantly higher. I mean, $5,000 higher, thereabouts. Hopefully this is a good sign for the future for truck replacement, but I don't believe we're all the way there yet either.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else? Looking for a motion? Taji?
I'd like to make a motion approving the purchase of a replacement one-ton truck.
All right, looking for a second. Tracy?
I'll second that.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, mill and overlay.
Mayor Adams, council members, Jesse Struve, Public Works Director again. Before you is a proposed 2024 mill and overlay project in the neighborhood very close to here, just a little bit north and east of the intersection of 42nd Avenue and Douglas Drive. This project involves grinding off the top 2 inches of asphalt, some curb replacement, and then also includes a full depth reclamation of the old Public Works parking lot, which we still utilize for a lot of material storage, vehicle storage areas as well. There is no assessment to the affected property owners. The estimated cost is about $1.1 million, and it will be funded through the Capital Street Fund. Oh, we can go in here as well. The proposed schedule moving forward is if the council decides to move forward with advertisement for bids, we will advertise for that until about June 17th. And then we'll bring this back on July 2nd. One thing to note with one of my project inspectors, Ben Perkey, is resigning and moving on to the city of Eagan. As a result of that, we are very short-staffed for inspection purposes, so we may have to work with an engineering firm to perform some of those inspections just because we don't have the staffing levels available. We will, on July 2nd, if we determine that we do need those services, we will bring that forth with the award of contract if needed. Communication with the neighboring residents. They've had multiple mailings leading up to this point. If the project is authorized to move forward, we will send out a letter to these residents again, notifying them of how to become in and get email notifications for work progress, project schedules, and who the contractor will be. Again, no special assessments, and the project is scheduled to be funded through the street capital fund in the long-term plan. With that, I'd answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Questions? John?
When we have the mill and overlay projects, I mean, we're doing an evaluation of the street itself, right? We're looking at the street because these streets are fairly new, and I haven't, unfortunately, I haven't driven on these other than Adair, and Adair is in great shape, obviously, but I mean, how do we make a determination? Because I think back on when these streets were first constructed within the past 25 years, I mean, you would still think they were in really great shape, and they would not need a mill and overlay at this time. So if you could really kind of just expound on that as to how did we get to this determination that they need to be? I can understand, you know, with the old Public Works parking lot, that being replaced, right? But the rest of the streets, I wonder, you just talk about how we do the assessment, or not assessment, but evaluation on the process.
Yep. Mayor Adams, Councilmember Budiszewski, the city does go through and do a pavement rating system on a yearly basis. You know, with a typical reconstruction, I believe this area was reconstructed in the early 2000s, so about 20 years ago.
Yep.
A typical life cycle of a street, after about 15 to 16 years is typically when you see the first mill and overlay to recondition that top section. And then you can do some seal coating and some other things to extend that longevity of the life of the system. Typical road lifespan is anywhere from 30 to 50 years, depending on the soils beneath it. And while this will improve the conditions of the road, it won't bring it back to what it was when it was first reconstructed. And so if you delay a lot of these mill and overlays too long, then it results in having to reconstruct it prematurely as well. So it is part of a kind of the life cycle of a road that you do need to come in and do a mill and overlay in that 15 to 20 year range.
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so, is it due to the soil? I mean, basically, this is clay soils, right? From this, that's in this area. I mean,
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Typically,
not totally familiar with the geography yet.
Well, I'm thinking of, like, you know, on the northern half is mostly sand, right? And then the southern half is where we have a lot of the water pipes breaking because of the clay soil, you know. So does that also affect our road surfaces as well? The clay itself being much more.
Mayor Adams, Councilmember Budiszewski, you're absolutely right. The underlying soils do contribute to the longevity of the roadways. Clay tends to be a little bit tougher with the heaving that tends to happen if you don't have adequate subbase underneath the road. Okay. So yes, that does come into play. Also, the sun degrades the top layer of the asphalt as well, and so this is partially helping to rejuvenate that top layer of that asphalt as well.
Good, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I think there's even more reasons on that scale to deal with the original quality of the product that was put down. All that stuff plays into that evaluation. Taji.
What do we use the old Public Works facility for?
Mayor Adams, Councilmember Vanessa Rosen.
Nice.
Yeah, wow. Geez. Chrissy, help me out.
Swish.
That site is used for many different things. It's used for storage of materials. I know we have some dirt materials down there. We have equipment. There's still some indoor garage space. I know the police department utilizes some of that area for training. There's a bus down there that they utilize as well. We bring a lot of material that we dig up down there for temporary storage before coming to haul it away. We do some breaking of some concrete and some other materials down there as well. So it's material storage, it's vehicle storage, and it's also utilized for other purposes as well.
Great, thank you.
You know, I think at the end of the day, when we look at that old Public Works Department, it wasn't intended to continue that way. That just kind of happened over time because it was available. We were able to use it for these different places or different things. You know, at the end of the day, it's a city asset and it's under our purview. Just thought you should know.
Mayor Adams.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, now, since everyone's asking questions, I want to see if you can say my last name. No, not actually, but kind of those two questions kind of linked into my head. I mean, what's the condition of the parking lot, right? Obviously, it's storage for vehicles and materials and doing work on it doesn't necessarily require the same grade of like condition as like a road, right? So, is that really needed right now, or what's the condition there?
Mayor Adams, Councilmember Idbo. Yes. I'm shooting on the here. The condition of that roadway, I would encourage you to drive down there and look at it. It is really broken up. It's in really tough shape. Actually, while, yes, we don't necessarily need it in perfect condition down there, the shape that it is in currently is in really poor shape, and it actually takes a lot of heavy equipment weight on it, and so it's not like a typical, hey, we need to put in just 2 or 3 inches and mill and overlay. That's going to break up pretty readily right away. So the plan is to reclimate it, which means it's similar to mill and overlay where you're still grinding it up, but you're mixing the underlying soil materials, and then you take off like top 4-ish inches, and then you put new pavement down. So it revitalizes not only the top, but then the sub base underneath it as well, in a much cheaper way than trying to reconstruct it. If we went in and just did a reconstruction where you're hauling out the material, putting in new subgrade, this is kind of, it's not like a mill and overlaid, but it's not as much of an impact as a full reconstruction as well.
Okay.
So this is the first conversation we as a council have had about any capital improvement of that property. The last conversation we had as a council was about future selling or repurposing. And since then, we had a conversation about what the floodplain has done to that space and whether it was viable to actually sell that property. So, yeah, it's worth some decent questions, so I appreciate the questions and comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, on that, are we as a council aligned on the investing in this property? And maybe that's I don't know how and when we're supposed to have that conversation, maybe right now, but so it sounds like this was not the initial intent, but obviously it seems like it provides a meaningful use, and it's a like I don't know if we need it, but we use it. And so I don't know, before we start putting, I assume tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and like, you know, revitalizing that space, like, is this something we are committed to investing in? And if we've already had that discussion, then that's fine, but I don't know.
We haven't.
Is there an alternative?
Mayor Adams, Councilmember Idbo. Yeah, I mean, we can always adjust the cost estimate as well to take that portion out. One benefit is with bidding it with a much larger project, we should get much better pricing versus having to come back at a later date and then bid that separately by itself. But we can certainly adjust the quantities to remove that portion of the project as well if the council desires.
Or, sorry, just to clarify my question, is there an alternative to the operations that occur at that site, at a different site? And obviously you're.
I would have to get back to you
Okay.
on that, on the full operational. Yeah. I mean, I know we have our new public works facility. I just don't know if there's enough space up there to handle everything we do down there plus the other operations, but I can certainly find out and get back to you.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Go ahead, Taji.
I mean, can I ask if John or Adam have a perspective on that?
I would say that based on the conversations I've had since I've been here, we need that that site with the amount of the items both inside and outside that are being stored there, and what the space is being used for. It was told to me by previous Public Works Director that the original intent was to have it go away, but when they got into the new site, the new building, again in 2015, they realized that they still had a use for that, the old building. The parking lot itself, as Jesse said, it's in really rough shape. This is the most cost-effective measure to maintain using this site without letting it. There's stormwater issues, it's in a floodplain, there's very limited options for the site itself. I think part of the bigger conversation is there's also buildings down there that the city does need to, at some point, have the conversation of what do we want to do with those. They're very aged, they require maintenance as is, but if we want to start investing real money into the actual buildings, that's another conversation that staff has not, we don't have a current proposal at this time.
Yeah, John.
So regarding the development, the possible development scenarios, which I think is what some of you are driving at, we did look at it in not great detail, but we did a rough approximation. What it would cost to do like a single-family street cul-de-sac extending south from 41st, basically extend Colorado Avenue south as far as we could. How many lots could we get in there? Now, this is based on lot prices from 10 years ago, roughly. So things, of course, have changed, but construction costs have gone up. And then there is the complication of the floodplain. And I think most critically, the elevation of the current intersection of 41st and Colorado is so low, it's going off memory here, that you would have to not just build this new street for these houses, but then you'd have to actually rebuild that intersection so that that little subdivision would have flood-proof access, right? Because the only way in and out of that new little pocket of development would be at this flood-prone intersection. So that combined with the fact that I think from Public Works perspective, what do we do with the salt storage building? What do we do for winter salt? And all the other uses that they have there on that site. So I think it was a combination of things. But on the development side, I think it might be more feasible with the big 4 or 5 story apartment building, might get the numbers to where they would work, but then you're plopping this big apartment building in the single family neighborhood. So we could certainly take a look at whatever it was, again, I'm going off memory, from 10 years ago and update the numbers, but and check the floodplain, see if it's changed. But my best guess is that redevelopment is not really a feasible option. Selling it for some kind of private use is probably not a feasible option.
All right, moving forward with this, if you could have them separate that out. I'm not sure, I'd like to have the council have the opportunity to kind of mill this over, whether they need to have more discussion on it. So.
And Mayor Adams, we can certainly have that as a bid alternate as well, so
Yep,
then.
that's what I mean, yep, thank you.
So then, when we do bring this back in July, that you can either choose or not choose to do that portion of it.
Yeah, I think considering the last time the council ever actually had a conversation about it, it was redevelopment, and it was 10 years ago at least. So the rest of the decisions have been made at a staff level until this point. This is the first capital improvement that we've done in that period of time, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, does that seem fair to the council?
Yep.
All right, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Do we still vote on this?
Oh, yeah, we'll still vote on it.
Okay,
I just
all right.
want to make sure we're having a full conversation before we
Okay.
get to the vote. Any other unrelated, or not unrelated, but different questions? All right, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion at this point. John?
Make a motion approving plans and specifications for authorizing advertisements for bids for the 2024 mill and overlay.
Yep, David?
I second that.
All right. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And that's sufficient enough. The bid process can be done within the scope of that motion, right?
You're asking me? Or are you asking Troy?
Troy. The bid process fits the scope the way that was written, correct? If they separate that out?
Yeah.
Yes, so that's part of the alternative process.
Thank you.
That fits perfectly.
Fighting for the right word, but yes, thank you.
Sorry.
You're good. All right, Jesse, I hope we weren't too hard on you.
Good job.
Yeah, there are going to be times when it's going to be more than 3. All right, we're on item 6, I believe. Yep. And this is in reference to the town center and sports court site. And we have John Sutter here to address the council on that, our community development director. Welcome, John, again.
Thank you, Mayor Adams, council members. So this is something that the Planning Commission addressed at their meeting on Monday night last week. So you're familiar with the building, the 4-story apartment building under construction at 5240 West Broadway. The property is zoned town center, and they got a planned development rezoning to that district to allow this building to be built there. They are now proposing to add a 35 by 25 foot sport court, kind of at the east corner technically of the property since it's on a diagonal. Now these are normally not permitted in the TCPD district, but that district does offer flexibility for new and creative uses. But in order to take advantage of that, SAND has to amend their site plan. The area where they're going to propose to put the sport court was going to be a generator pad for a backup generator for the building, but they've since put that in a different spot on the property. So that is why this space is available. As mentioned in the council or the city manager's notes, the developer had some unexpected cost savings on this property, on this development, and they have elected to put those cost savings back into this project, which is great. And among the upgrades is this sport court, but it's certainly not the only upgrade. So here's the standard 500-foot notification radius. Here is the aerial photo of what the site looked like before the construction began. And here is the site plan. The sport court, as you can see, is in that easterly corner. So they will still have 117 parking spaces. They're going to lose one for the sport court, and they're going to locate it closer to the building by just moving some curb. The underwater or underground stormwater storage tank will be able to handle the slight increase in impervious surface. And they are going to have a row of Medora junipers planted along the back and side of the sport court to screen it from adjacent property or to screen the adjacent properties from the people trying to enjoy the sport court. I think it would go both ways. So, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval after holding the public hearing last week, and no one from the public provided any comments. The developer's representative, Megan Carr from Sand Companies, is here to answer any questions you may have, or she can offer additional comments if she wishes. We're asking you to approve first reading of the UDC amendment that would allow them to add the sport court. Second reading would be June 4th, and then publication and effective date in June and July respectively. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Go ahead. Tracy.
Was this a TIF district build?
Yes.
Yes, great question. This is in a TIF district that was created specifically for this project, but I don't think it has any impact on the TIF financing. The TIF is a very small part of the total project, total development cost, and the cost savings were on the expenditure side.
Okay, perfect. That was my question. Thank you.
I'm kind of curious as to what types of sports are going to be feasible on this court.
Yeah,
you're welcome to approach. Thank you.
Good evening. Megan Carr with Sand. So the plan is to do have a basketball hoop. It'll be a fixed basketball hoop on site. We do it's a concrete pad and there's sport tile. that overlays on top of that, and then there'll be a four-square built into that as well, the design of the tile itself. It's a pretty small sports court compared to some of the other properties just because of the nature of the site, but we felt it was really important to try to incorporate it somehow because Becker Park is really close, but for those kids, coming home, somebody's making dinner or getting ready to go to the next thing, just be able to run outside and play for a little bit. I see my kids doing that every day with the basketball hoop at our house, so we think it'll be really used here. And we have incorporated it into our last, 5 or 6 projects, and our residents seem to really enjoy having that on-site amenity.
Yeah, okay, awesome, thank you. Other questions? All right, thank you. Looking for a motion on the UDC. John?
I make a motion amending the ordinance, amending the town center plan development at 5240 West Broadway Avenue.
All right, Forrest?
Second.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Great.
That was one motion on there, right? Yeah. All right, next the council will take a look at the first reading of an ordinance amending the requiring license and imposing regulations on retail sale of edible cannabis products. I know that's not the right word. It said cannabinoid. Something like that. All right, John, take it away.
Thank you again, Mayor Adams, council members. So this is something that the council has had extensive discussions about, especially over the last several months. And the purpose, there are 3 main purposes behind this proposed ordinance change. Number 1 is to achieve long-term parity and locational restrictions, the buffer distances, for not only THC edibles, but also off-sale alcohol and tobacco sales. The second purpose is that the buffers would be ready for whenever the city's current THC licensing ordinance is supplanted by state licensing. We don't know exactly when that'll happen because the Office of Cannabis Management at the state, to put it politely, they haven't figured everything out yet, and so we can't make any assumptions about when that's going to sort of walk on whatever our local licensing ordinance is, but we need to be ready for that. And by putting these restrictions in the Uniform Development Code, the zoning code, in other words, we'll be ready for that whenever that happens. And then, while full cannabis shops are not yet allowed by state law, this amendment would add the cap of 2 full cannabis shops in the city, which is another limitation that the state has allowed us to have in addition to the buffer distances. And that applies to full cannabis shops, not the edibles. So the proposed timeline, the Planning Commission held a public hearing last week. Tonight is first reading. Assuming that goes forward, then we would have second reading on June 4th, published on June 13th, and then a little different here. Instead of the normal effective date, 30 days after publication, the effective date would be January 1st. And I'll explain in a minute why that's important. So, in the proposed ordinance, there are a lot of different new definitions, and many of them are based on what's in the state statute regarding cannabis. The land use tables are being amended to add cannabis, off-sale alcohol, and tobacco sales as either principal or accessory uses. And sales cannot be located within 500 feet of a school, park, or residential treatment facility. That's basically right out of the statute, except we've harmonized the buffer distance so they're all 500 feet. And we've also made it clear that the definition of a school does not include the Robbinsdale Transition Center and the Crystal Shopping Center because that primarily serves adults. So there's a difference between permitted versus legal nonconforming uses. Legal nonconforming is what people usually call grandparenting or being grandfathered in. The effect of this ordinance, of the 9 current and that should say off-sale alcohol, I apologize. No, I'm sorry, that's right. Of the 9 off-sale alcohol businesses, 4 of them would continue to be permitted. In other words, they would comply with the buffers. 5 of them would become legally non-conforming. Of the 21 tobacco businesses, 9 would continue to be permitted, again, meaning they comply with the buffers, and 12 would become legally non-conforming. Now, what that means, a legal non-conforming use can continue indefinitely as long as the business isn't discontinued for a year, and they also will not be able to expand, but they can continue in their current form and extent as long as they don't shut down for a year. Now, the effective date matters because these new buffers in the zoning code would go into effect on January 1st, but that means because the next item on your agenda is the repealer to take the buffers out of our THC edibles licensing ordinance. That will be effective in the normal manner on July 13th. What that does is create about a 5.5-month window for current alcohol and tobacco licensees, even if they're in the buffers, to get a THC edibles license. And then that use would become legally non-conforming, just like the alcohol and tobacco use would. And again, there's that overarching goal of long-term parity between the 3 products. So here's a map illustrating the buffers. The black letters are current alcohol or tobacco licensees that would continue to be permitted uses, and the gray ones are those that would become legally non-conforming on January 1st. And then this is a table. On the left is the alcohol licensees, on the right is the tobacco licensees, or licenses. And you can see for each one, there's the ones that are in black would continue to be permitted, would meet the buffers, and the ones in gray would become legally non-conforming because they no longer meet the buffers. But all of these would be grandparented on January 1st. For alcohol, tobacco, and THC edibles, if they choose to add that product by January 1st. So the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed UDC amendment. No one from the public provided comments to the commission. And so the council action requested tonight is for you to approve first reading of the amendments as recommended by the Planning Commission.
All right. Thank you, John. Questions for John on this item? Forrest.
Just one question for right now. I didn't see edible defined in here. Is that just because we're gonna just use the state? Yes. Yeah, okay, sounds good. Yep. All right. And just to be clear, that means no vape products, right? Because we determined that last night.
For right now.
For right now.
Mr. Mayor, right. Now, the cannabis bill passed. Now, whether it gets signed or not, I don't know. So there's another whole scope of work that needs to be done to.
Did they change the definition?
Okay. I don't know.
Okay. Well, then that begs the question, what is in that new bill?
Great.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, that is a good question. My understanding, it's going to affect more the timing of the land use determination because there's this whole sequencing of you make application, you send it to the city, they have 30 days of review and comment as to consistency. When I was at a presentation that was put on by the office, they talked about thinking that unnecessarily slow down the licensing process, and so they were trying to get at that. Again, I haven't looked at it, but my understanding of everything, all the discussions leading into that, it shouldn't affect anything we're doing here, or you're doing here.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing anything about the definitions changing, but they could also change in that, say.
In the rules too. I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but keep in mind, these rules are still coming. So they may put some, because frankly, some of the uses, when we say cannabis business, that includes 12 to 14 different types of businesses. Not all of those are individually defined. So there's still work to be done on that. So those holes will be filled in either as part of this or more likely the rulemaking process.
All right, very good. Do you have something, John?
I think my question has been answered.
Excellent. Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, is there any value in us waiting to adopt this, to the fall? Since this doesn't go into effect until January 1, just wondering if there'd be any value in us kind of holding for a few months, maybe until we learn more? Just a question.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I might, and I don't know if John has any comments on this either. I mean, I think that's an option, frankly. Honestly, we've been hesitant to spend a lot of time trying to pour through those bills because, especially this one is obviously a hot topic. So we didn't want to spend a great deal of energy looking at that until we actually had a bill that was adopted. So that effort will be occurring. I mean, keep in mind, you also have a second reading, so I guess if anything comes up, you certainly could make changes at second reading if we notice anything. And given the relatively narrow focus of this on the buffers and that, which again, I don't think have changed, I don't think it will take that long to scan the new bill to see if anything directly affects this. So I don't know that it's significant enough to just scrap or pause the whole thing, I guess is what I'm saying.
Thanks.
So, just to be clear, this ordinance that's in front of us, this draft, attachment A, has nothing to do with edible cannabinoids, edible THC products, correct?
It does.
Where in here does it?
So you get into cannabis business and cannabis product, it includes edibles.
Can you show me what line that is?
So when you get into the definitions, so it talks about regulating cannabis business, which is that list of the 12 of 14.
Right.
And then it talks about the sale of cannabis products, which is broadly defined as containing any cannabinoid.
Right, so my concern here is how are we separating out the edible use and the sale of edible THC products? How are we separating that out from all the other types of businesses? How is that separated out in here? Like if I, that's my confusion, right? So you have a tobacco shop today that is going to be selling edible THC products, right? And how do they get that license? Is that in a separate ordinance right now? Because I'm kind of confused, right? Because there's nothing in here, the word edible is not mentioned in here once, right? So once all those different types of cannabis businesses are allowed, how is that separated out?
So Mr. Mayor.
Please, go ahead.
Does that question make no sense?
No, I think it does.
Talk about potency, right?
No, I'm talking about type. I'm talking about the buying, bud versus buying a gummy, right? I mean, cannabis retail business, as defined under state statute, includes both. Those are right? Both of those are types of businesses that are under that definition.
So, Mr. Mayor, I think I understand your question, and you're hitting on something that has made this process more complicated than it may seem, and why partly there's so many different definitions being added here. Because keep in mind, we still have one foot in the old law that talks about the edible cannabinoids and lower, those become lower potency cannabinoid products. Words to that effect. So the edible really kind of goes away because that's under the existing law that it sunsets, and I think it's March of next year, March 1 of next year. So you still have a licensing ordinance that's going to address those, and that's going to be in effect. I can't remember the effective date, but the idea is that that's going to cover until the licensing scheme comes into effect. And so this is focused more on what happens once that licensing scheme comes into effect, and trying to use terms and definitions based on that law that's more forward-looking once it really engages. So one of the reasons you'll see, and this brought some confusion, is the difference between a cannabis business and a cannabis retailer business. The cannabis retailer business includes limited types of cannabis businesses. So that's why I created a separate definition, because those are the sorts of businesses that you can put the cap on, the no more than, in your case, 2. So that, I had to define that out separately to distinguish those 3 that are listed there from the other 12 or 14 that are in the bigger definition of cannabis business. So that's one thing that we did, to try to separate those 2, and then to try to get at the other subtle point is that you can have a store, nothing but hemp, and, you know, these other places that, as the name implies, guess what they're selling? You know, they're selling products that are focused on edible products, but you also have potentially gas stations and off-sale liquor stores and things like that selling these products as well, not as a principal part of their business, but just as like they sell tobacco and other things like that. So that's why we created this 2-tier of identifying these as principal businesses and then accessory sales of these products, including liquor and tobacco. So that's where we were trying to go in identifying each of those, and then where those businesses can go as a principal business, and then as an accessory use to other types of businesses like gas stations and grocery stores and liquor stores.
Okay,
Those
well, so the scenario is, there's gonna be this period where a business can get a license from the city under this ordinance to sell,
under the licensing ordinance.
under the.
Not this
Yeah,
one.
not this, okay,
Right,
so
under the
that's
licensing.
under the other one that's already in, okay.
Right.
So then, okay, then that answers my question, so.
Sorry. Probably should-
That's what I meant, why, there's another one that's dealing with all the edible stuff.
Yes, yes,
And that
yes,
is true, okay,
Yes.
so this is, okay,
January 1 looking forward, the licensing one is supposed to run up till whenever the state takes over.
okay,
And then
so,
this is supposed
so what's gonna happen is, they will apply for that license that allows them to sell edible cannabis products, and then they receive that license, which then gives them the, you know, the essentially the permitted use, right? That, then on March, or whenever the door closes, those ones that are gray will become legally non-conforming, and they will be stuck kind of at that, what they got, pretty much, at that license. And they will not be able to upgrade that license to this, pretty much.
January 1st of '25 is when, not March. March is when the state will take over, but.
Yeah.
So there could be another limbo period.
Right.
but our ordinance will, if they haven't applied and been granted the license by January 1st, whatever status they
They're
have
in.
at that time, that's what will.
Locked in.
Will be locked in.
Okay.
Excuse me, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to emphasize too that it is only under that licensing ordinance we have for the edibles, the low dose stuff, from which we would then remove the buffers ASAP if you adopt this UDC amendment. That licensing ordinance, apart from the buffers, would live on. And in that ordinance, it is only current off-sale alcohol or tobacco retailers that are also similarly licensed by the city that could get the edibles license from us, because they already know how to do the compliance check. So it's only those businesses that would have this window open for them to add the THC edibles, even if they're in a buffer.
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern was that there was some sort of connection between that edible license that would open a window to this, and it's clear that there is not, and that is, okay, that's my only concern.
Excellent, good.
One other, trying to clarify things with this, cannabis business does not, under state statute, currently does not include the lower potency retailers. Those are actually excluded because they're under the hemp.
The old law. Or under the Farm Bill.
Under last year's legislation, the 2023, but they're not included in the state definition of cannabis business, which our ordinance will then refer to. So those are separated out as hemp businesses, hemp product businesses. The lower potency are.
So we're regulating something that the state isn't, essentially.
Well, no, we will be, currently, yes, because the state doesn't have.
Right, obviously, but.
The reason I bring it up is because our ordinance refers to cannabis businesses, which are basically the full strength, anything related to the full strength. The lower potency, which we're currently licensing and would be potentially converted to a registration, in 25, those are separate from the cannabis businesses. So those will still be included in our ordinance, but they're not defined as a cannabis business under state statute. So if your concern is that they'll somehow the proposed ordinance it's gonna miss something, or something will slip through, they're being treated separately in state statute, which ours refers to. And so.
So, yeah, I think we're good. Yep. Got it.
The cannabis retailer and state statute for cannabis business are defined separately. So.
But all registered licenses.
Correct, they're all regulated.
Yeah.
That's what the state.
All right. I think we're good on questions. Looking for a motion. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I asked the question, so.
There you go.
I move an ordinance amending the Crystal Unified Development Code regarding cannabis businesses, liquor sales, and tobacco sales.
All right, thank you. Looking for a second?
I second that motion.
John?
I second that motion.
All right, all members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, now the other ordinance. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No slideshow for this one. It's a simple matter of repealing the current buffer restrictions from the THC edible cannabinoids licensing ordinance. And that would go into effect if you do first reading tonight, second reading on June 4th. It would go into effect on July 13th, and that would create that 5.5-month window for the existing businesses to become legally nonconforming by adding the edibles to their products that they sell. And we would reach out to all those licensees to let them know of the opportunity as soon as it's about to go into effect.
Okay. Forrest?
I don't have a question, but I'm ready.
Go for it.
I move an ordinance amending the ordinance requiring a license and imposing regulations on the retail sale of edible cannabinoid products.
All right, thank you. Looking for a second. John?
Second that motion.
All right. All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Thanks, John. Thanks, Troy.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next, Adam Powell, our city manager, will talk about the Fine Point Tech for Design.
I feel sitting.
Need some exercise?
There is a brief slide using our wonderful technology. Page down to advance.
Perfect. Yeah, no feedback.
So as the council has experienced itself, we've had some technological issues with the chambers. The equipment is about 10 years old in both the control room as well as some of the materials or equipment in the chambers itself. I guess it was last fall, staff we hired for a needs assessment, working with Fine Point, who we've used in the past. And they came up with a proposal, which is what's before you now. This, depending on the timing, this year we don't have the ability to do it because there will be about a 2-month period, up to 2 months, where the council will be displaced for council meetings. So we're looking at, because of elections, we're short on time this year. But in 2025, we have more flexibility to do that. Obviously, since 2014, when a lot of the equipment was last installed, the more recent stuff, technologies continued to advance and been improved. So we're looking to make some technological updates for that, as well as there's changes going on with CCX, the way our meetings are broadcast. There's been a lot of, like I said, just changes. As we kind of have a Band-Aid going right now with the presentation system that we had difficulties with the last meeting. So there's needs that need to be done, and in order to replace parts of it, some of it's not, the parts aren't even available. The technology becomes obsolete quicker than
then we can replace some of it. So we do have, through CCX, and the Cable Commission, the city does receive funding for these types of projects every year. We currently have about 352,000 to be more precise, but about 350,000 in our cable equipment fund that is set aside for this. It's not part of the long-term plan because it's kind of an as-needed, whenever it's going to be time. Some of the other cities in the Cable Commission have recently also gone through upgrades to their chamber and their broadcast equipment. So they are helping us determine, they've been working with us to determine what we need to broadcast better, get that out to the public. Specifically with this, the plan that, the proposal that we're looking at is they're going to make sure that everything is working, as well as work through us, all the administration on the bidding process for all the equipment, and then the actual construction. They're not going to be doing the construction, but they're going to be working with us to actually implement the changes. The proposal that we have was for $35,560 with Fine Point. We've been really happy with them. One of the other aspects that's not part of this is that would be part of the chamber's upgrade is the lighting. We're going to have a study done. I know that's been something that several of the council members have commented about. Obviously, you're being broadcast right now. You need light in your face, but there are possibly other ways to accomplish that, so it's still you're still visible without needing makeup and other broadcast challenges. More makeup, perhaps. What? If you want to go that route. So the resolution that you have is to approve the agreement with Fine Point to do this project. And again, the timing is going to be sometime next year, but because of the lead time on obtaining some of the equipment and actually doing the planning for it, it's going to take some time. So we'll be doing that through the rest of the year, and then at some point next year, we'll actually be making the changes. One thing I'll also mention, we have not included any really design changes for the council chambers. That's something that we would have to bring back to the council if that's something that we want to do. I know the carpeting, the actual aesthetics of the chambers hasn't been updated in some time, so that would be part of the conversation as we move forward, but nothing's been decided one way or another with that. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. I know Matt was online. He's spearheading a lot of this, working with the technology side.
All right. Questions? Yeah, Tracy.
You said that when this is going on, the council will have to be relocated for a couple months?
At least one, so probably a minimum of 2 meetings and a work session, but possibly 2 months, depending on how we can coordinate the actual installation of the equipment.
Okay. Do we have a place that would have the available or needed AV equipment to broadcast?
Well, we have the upper community room that we've held work sessions in. That's right now kind of the leading candidate for that, which is partially why we're waiting until the election season's all done, because that space is used for that purpose as well. But that would be, we'll have to make it a more permanent home for the council during those times and make sure that the broadcasts are able to be done there. So that'd be part of the internal staff, just making sure, working with CCX to make sure that those are broadcast properly.
Yeah, go ahead, Therese.
The $35,560, is that inclusive? That's including new equipment, installation, the design, that's all money?
That does not include the equipment. The actual equipment that probably the estimates for that is in about the 300,000 range. There's a lot, I don't know if you've seen the equipment, the AV room back there. It's very dated. It almost all needs to be swapped out. So it's a couple $100,000 or a few $100,000 for all of that. And the microphones, I think, we've been going through, they did a needs assessment, but this is going to be going more in detail for each item that needs to be replaced and coming up with the design and the plan for that. So the 35,000, that's a good question. That is just for working with them to come up with the specific, basically the plans and specifications for it, as well as the, the contract administration, working with the different vendors, and helping us with the construction.
So that's not installation?
That's no equipment.
That's just the design and
Right.
and managing the project. So installation will be an addition to that, correct?
Well, a lot of times the vendors themselves will, depending on what aspect it is, if we're just buying a piece of hardware, that may need to be installed by that contractor that sells it. So that's the equipment plus the installation is kind of in that $300,000 range.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah, Taji.
So this $350,000 budget we have, it comes from, where does it come from?
The cable franchise fees that we do have through, so basically anybody, the cable commission collects them through anybody who has hardwired cable, Comcast in this case. And they distribute those through the cities based on who's subscribing. That's one of the issues at the legislature that they were working on this year. They weren't able to, because so many more people are doing streaming and not subscribing to actual cable, those revenues are down for the cable commission. And the cable commission is looking to find other ways to get that revenue in order to provide these types of services. The educational, the government, the PEG channels, if you will, and the public access channels that are in the various communities. We approximately get about between $30,000 and $35,000 every year as our revenue. It comes as a grant from the Cable Commission. Okay. So it's not a guaranteed amount. We have no control over it. But every year we've been adding to that. So for the last 10 years, we haven't spent any of it, or very, very minimum. So it's up to about, like I said, just over 35 or 350,000.
And I assume the way we can use that, those dollars is very specific.
It is, yeah. It's in a separate fund, the Cable Equipment Fund. It's Fund 404. You need to know that, but it is dedicated specifically for those. So we're not able to use those for fund balance or for other non-broadcast. That's what the intent of that franchise fee is for.
Okay. I appreciate the number, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Looking for a motion? Tracy?
Go ahead, Tracy. I'll second your motion.
John's trying to take my glory.
Oh,
I will make a motion to approve the contract with Fine Point Tech for design, bidding, and construction oversight services for council chamber upgrades as planned for in the Cable Equipment Fund.
All right, thank you.
I second that motion.
All members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
You have a few announcements to end the night. To accommodate Crystal residents participating in NOMO May, the city waits until June 1st to begin lawn grass enforcement. City offices will be closed Monday, May 27th in observation of the Memorial Day holiday. But wait, there's more. The next council meeting is Tuesday for June 4th, 7 p.m. Here at the council chambers at City Hall. Also available via Zoom. Ribbon cutting is also happening at the new Welcome Park Play Area and Fitness Circuit and will be held Wednesday, June 5th at 6:30 p.m. Coming up is Father's Day. Oh wait, that's not the announcement, but it is on Father's Day. The Crystal Airport Open House is Sunday, June 16th from 8 to 3 p.m. Council meetings and work sessions are available to the public, and current and previous meetings are available for viewing and listening on our website at crystalmn.gov. Do we have any other announcements, Forrest?
I just want to say, we're all very excited about the Timberwolves, obviously, right? It's a big week for us. And last Sunday, I went out and spent kind of a celebratory time at a Crystal business, and I think it's a great opportunity for people to go out and have some community at some of the local fine establishments that are showing the game here in Crystal. So just a reminder there.
Nice idea. All right, any other announcements?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Troy.
If you don't mind, I do have an announcement.
I don't, no, you are not recognized. What is your announcement?
So, Mr. Mayor and Council, after 17 years with Kennedy and Graven, and I should have checked, I think roughly 10 years with the city, I've decided to move on and start my own law practice that's going to be focusing on town government, so smaller rural governments. You likely don't know, I spent 15 years with the Minnesota Association of Townships before I went into private practice, and I've always represented towns through that entire time. I've just decided, as I'm eyeing the end of my career, the last decade of my career, I'm going to refocus and really start serving them. So I believe this will be my last meeting. The good news, or perhaps the better news, depending on which what you think of me, is Rachel Tierney from our office is slated to sit in the seat moving forward. She has a great deal of experience. She's worked with City of St. Paul, head of the civil division there for many years. The city manager did have an opportunity to meet her briefly before the meeting. And she will do an absolutely terrific job for you. And I will miss you all. I really have enjoyed working with the city and city staff. You truly, and I have no reason to say this, I mean, I have no benefit to me. I can tell you honestly, you have such a tremendous staff. And working with Adam has been, in his time here, has really been wonderful. So I am going to miss you all, but it's just one of those things I want to move on, kind of downsize a little bit and finish off my career doing that. So thank you very much. Again, I'll look forward to finishing out this meeting, and I will be available moving forward if there's any questions I offered to Adam and certainly staff, and then certainly Rachel, that if there are any questions about anything I may have been involved with, if there's anything like that I can help moving forward, I'm happy to do that. And I'd be remiss if I don't say probably my biggest project in those last 17 years have been helping to rewrite your code, which was really a rewarding multi-year project, but it's one of those highlights in my career. So thank you for that opportunity.
It's one of our highlights too, to have that many citizens actually come in and have those conversations with you.
Yeah. So thank
you. I knew I shouldn't have recognized you. No. Well, thank you. Thank you for your service. I know when we started this project, it was a little tenuous when you came on.
Yep.
We had some hard times back then. And, I think they created you for Crystal to really fit who I am. I mean, it felt to me like your background in firefighting and all that, we had a lot of common ground to kind of get together and develop some trust. And that was so very important at that time. So I appreciate that. And I want to highlight that because it's really made this job a lot easier to have that working relationship. And honestly, thank you for your comments towards staff. We agree. I agree 100%. And I think it means something that you said that to them as well. So thank you.
My pleasure.
You will be missed.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
I was wondering if I started the applause, if that would look bad, but anyway. Okay.
All right, Tracy.
Just a quick question. Did we, with this No Mow May stuff last year, did we talk about a grace period? So it wasn't like immediately next day, boom, June 1st, we're going to start enforcing? Like,
Yes,
is there already
yes,
a grace period?
Yes.
There is, okay.
So and just with our code enforcement practice is starting June 1st, the city will start, notifying the residents that, in this case, that they need to mow their yard.
Yep.
So there are no, not on June 1st, there's not a citation or a fine.
Okay.
It's a process. Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I could be specific. It's a 10-day
Okay.
notice before we would actually issue a citation and send the contractor out to mow. So they would have whatever the date of the notice is plus 10 days.
Okay.
So
And what's
June
the-
11th.
What is the height?
8
before?
inches.
8 inches? Okay.
Correct. Yep.
All right, thank you for that extra info. Any other announcements? Seeing none? Go
Make a
ahead.
motion to adjourn.
I may have started something. Looking for a second.
You gotta look left.
I will second that.
All members in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.